Hello, this is the walk and run tutorial. And the first thing that you should do is go to the online classroom and download all of the assets for the walk and run project. You're going to need the scrollable background, and there's also some sounds in there you may find very useful. You don't have to use those sounds, but you should use the scrollable background because it's going to just be a huge time saver in terms of completing the project this week. Now let's look at a demo of basically where you should end up. Now it's true that mostly we don't make our characters walk and run for extended periods of time when making an animation, but it's a very important skill to develop, and it will also help you to develop and hone your skills in general with the software. So after you've downloaded the assets from the online classroom, start a new blank file and import your character into that. If for some reason your character has any animation on it, then just go to Animation, Clear Animation from Document. And I think before I begin, I'm going to make my character just a little bit larger. Now, you'll need to scale your character to the size of that environment once we get to that point, but for starting out, it doesn't really matter whatever size your character is, as long as you keep in mind that you're going to be moving the limbs around quite a bit. So if your character happens to be really large from top to bottom of the stage area, you might want to scale it down a little bit so that you're able to work with all the changes in the bones that you're going to make. Next, we're going to import one of the image files that you downloaded from the classroom. All right, I provided a whole bunch of different image files of walk and run cycles. And we're going to use just this one in particular for this exercise, but just so that you're aware that there are different types of walk poses that you can copy from, and that can depend on the type of character that you have also. But go over to the Layers palette and click on the new layer and choose Image, and then locate the images that you downloaded, and then choose Walk Cycle Key Poses and click Open. And let me enlarge this. So it's this one right here. Now we'll get back to resizing that in a moment, but first off, what we need to do is put kind of like a baseline on the bottom of the heel of whichever foot is the front foot of your character. So just go to the new layer vector and then make a rectangle object with kind of a lightish color. Let's say, for example, I'd choose maybe a kind of a light blue, and I can just draw out the rectangle shape. And maybe I'll even take off the stroke line from that and zoom in. And what I want to do is put the top part of that right around the heel of my character's front foot, and then take that layer and drag it below my character. I don't want it inside the folder with the character, but I do just want to have it so that it's a point of reference. And I'll just make it all the way across there. So this will be something that will just get deleted later on. Now let's look at that image file again. Okay, click on that in the Layers palette. And what you're going to want to do, and let me click on Transform Layer, and just move this around a little bit. And I want you to see the figure with the number 10 over it. You want to stretch this out from top to bottom and side to side and match as closely as you can with your character. Now, there's not much chance it's going to match exactly with your character because your character's body shape may be very different. Okay, but this is a pretty good pose to use in starting out trying to work on this sort of thing. So as you can see, I'm looking at the heel of this front leg here, matching it up with this heel, and I'm looking up here at the head, and it's pretty close to matching there. And I could try and go for stretching out that width a little bit so that it matches my character width somewhat. And let me try that again. All right, so this is just a way to kind of match up. But when you're following these poses as your guide, it's just impossible to get it to match up exactly. There's quite a bit of, figuring it out on your own as you go. But this is kind of the first step in sizing this thing that you're going to use as your guide. Go ahead and pause this video, do it, and then resume the video. All right, so when you have it sized, we're going to have to slide it over so that this character is actually on top of your character. But remember, you don't want to mess up all the work you've put into matching up, that heel to heel. So hold your shift key down and try to pull nice and straight as you go, and then slide this so that it's over top of your character. Now this isn't going to match up because the number 1, all right, has a bent knee and this leg is pulled far forward. So the character is already like downward, and we'll get to that in a minute. So here's what you want to do. Go to frame 1 on the timeline, and then animation, add keyframe. I'll show you a couple more and then I'll have you do the rest on your own. But again, you want to move down to frame 4. Okay, so moving to frame 4 on the timeline, and then hold your shift key down and with transform layer, pull and put it right over top of your character. Again, this looks very low because this figure is bending even further downward, so don't worry about that right now. And then animation, add keyframe. I'll show you one more time. We're going to frame 7. There I am at frame 7, and then holding my shift key down, slide over, get right over top of my character, and then animation, add keyframe. So you want to go all the way to the end, all right, following that process, because in starting out this way, you'll be able to go through this and you won't accidentally mess up when you need to go to frame 1 and pose, frame 4 and pose, frame 7 and pose, and so forth. All right. Go ahead and finish up all the way to the end of all of those little figures, and I'll continue in the next video.